Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live episode of One Story. Hi, Paola. How are you today?
Hi, good morning. I'm doing good. Thank you.
Yeah. So, welcome. If you joined in a little while ago, we had some technical difficulties, but we are back on. But I still wouldn't change the live for anything. So, today we have Paola. If you're not following her, please go ahead and do so at Live of Paola. Welcome. So, you have been sharing your journey for quite some time now, and I'm not just talking about, your health journey with us. You've been posting and been very open about your life for many years now. And one of the posts that you have a few years back, still posted on your page, talks about a little bit about who you are and mentions Bible verse, but you ended by saying, "I am a fighter." And that's just one of my favorite posts about you. And you've also posted in the past really funny, cute videos that just make me laugh and smiles. And you also even mentioned the opportunity that you got once to share your hair with children's for hair loss. And that's just a few things that you shared with us in the past. But to current times today, I still see that you're still sharing your sense of humor by putting a twist to your videos. And you're still showing a lot of generosity and a lot of fight and strength in you. And I just want to tell you thank you for sharing that side of your life and for putting a smile on my face and just for helping me even bring my own strengths forward. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Nora. I appreciate it.
Mhm. And right now, you are currently going through cancer. You're currently fighting through it. Tell me a little bit about your journey. When did you first notice that something was wrong? And, when you got diagnosed and where you are in the current treatment process?
I found the lump on my own back in November of 2022. Just while I was showering, I was doing a self-exam. So I found a lump and I just knew that it wasn't something normal because I have never had that. I didn't really have a history of any lumps in my family either. So I made an appointment, went through many doctors because, again, I was young, have no family history of cancer. So automatically, in a lot of cases, many, not all doctors kind of rule that out, rule cancer being, a factor or a possibility if you fall in those categories. So it took a little bit of pushing back and self-advocating and asking for second opinions for me to finally get that lump biopsied, and that took place in January of this year. So after they did the biopsy, it did come back and turn out to be that it was cancer. After they confirmed that it was cancer, the next step was trying to figure out, what are we going to do? Surgery or chemotherapy first? Do I have any genetic mutations that put me at a higher risk for redeveloping cancer? So a lot of testing, a lot of scans, a lot of getting poked in different places. But thankfully, in February of this year, they were able to remove the lump, and I had clear margins, which means that thankfully, thank God, that the cancer hadn't spread. And I've been able to now go through chemotherapy. I have just 2 more sessions left. And the next step after chemotherapy will be to do a bilateral mastectomy, which they will be removing both of my breasts since I did test positive for a genetic mutation that puts me at a higher risk of redeveloping breast cancer in the future. So in order to mitigate that risk or to lessen that risk of it coming back, my doctors and I have decided to go that route with a double mastectomy.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I think, no, for sure. I think there's no way that anyone ever prepares for cancer, right? I know you don't want to prepare for cancer either, but I think we all know that as we get older, eventually will, there is the possibility or a higher possibility for, people to get sick as they get older. You get weaker. Just sicknesses happen. And I think when older people get sick, you obviously wish them well, but it's a little bit more understood. I think, when you start getting sick, you start going to doctors, and the doctors, start looking into your history and give you a lot of options, a lot of testing. But when you're younger and you are currently 28 years old, and I just don't think that anyone in their 20s ever expects that. I think doctors, to be honest, at least from my opinion, I don't think they expect that. I've come across different women that have cancer that we had to fight so hard to find out what was wrong with us. And maybe because we were younger, it's not expected. So those tests of if it could possibly be a cancer weren't addressed, or weren't asked for. Versus if someone's older, I feel like they were asked for those type of tests. For me, I had to keep fighting for it. Like you had to get a second opinion. Versus if you were someone older. You being in your 20s, I know that you have a lovely husband that's by your side. I know you talked to me about the possibility of having children one day. How was it to be told you have cancer, breast cancer? And, how did that affect you? Like, did you find it very difficult to hear that? And then walk me through the process of, like, how did that affect you for down the road having children? Did you think about it right away, or did you didn't think about it, or was the urgency there?
I think it was a lot of emotions, because when you hear like you have cancer, you then kind of go into like this, at least I did. I went into kind of a state of like shock. I don't think I really went, there was denial as well. I went through like all the emotions. So it was shock, and the first thing was, what is cancer? Because not really many people in my family have ever had cancer, anyone close to me. And as you become a cancer patient, you start to learn all these different terms and just how complex cancer is. Breast cancer, for example, it's not just breast cancer. There's estrogen positive, there's triple positive, triple negative. There's all these different types of terminology that kind of accompanies cancer that you start to learn as you're deep in it. So learning that and navigating that and having to do all the testing to figure out what kind of cancer I had and how progressed it was, that was very scary, very daunting as well. The next thing was, doctors are telling you, okay, we got to do surgery, we got to do chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is going to affect you in X, Y, and Z. And then if you have a doctor who, takes family planning into consideration, then comes a question, what are you thinking for your future? Unfortunately, I didn't have the best experience with my first oncologist. My husband thankfully was there with me. But when we asked my oncologist, the first one that I had, what family planning looked like, he said, because my cancer feeds off of my hormones, and pregnancy, as we know, produces a lot of hormones, that he basically ruled out pregnancy. He told me, I do not recommend that you get pregnant. And to me, when I heard that, already dealing with all the baggage of trying to go through treatment and, surgery and all of that stuff, and then hearing like, I don't recommend you get pregnant, to me, in my mind, I was like, okay, the door is closed on that. And I was kind of just like, all right, well, I guess that's what it is. And thankfully my husband was like, well, I mean, that can't be it, right? Like, there has to be another answer. There has to be another way. And because I was kind of just already so overwhelmed with everything going on and going back and forth to the doctors, I kind of was just ready to accept that fate. But my husband thankfully, said like, let's get a second opinion. And we thankfully did. We went to another oncologist, and thankfully we got just blessed with the most amazing, kind-hearted, and understanding and empathetic oncologist. So that second opinion, she said, there's other options. You know, I don't want you to miss out on the opportunity to hopefully save some eggs. There's the possibility of you not even having to carry your own baby. Maybe you can get a surrogate. So she just opened my eyes and my mind to the fact that there are many different ways of becoming a mother or, you know, having a child. So I am so grateful that we were able to get that second opinion, because had I not gone to another oncologist, I would not have been able to, you know, go through the in vitro process of preserving eggs. And I got blessed and I was thankfully able to preserve some eggs. What's going to happen in the future, you know, that's something that my husband and I have not really discussed too much in its entirety, just because we just want to take bite-sized pieces of life right now. You know, the first step is get through chemotherapy. Next step is, you know, my next surgery. And then once I can breathe a little bit more, then we'll start talking about that. But definitely very blessed, number one, to have had the support of my husband and have him, you know, make me kind of push for that second opinion for another oncologist. And thankful for the fact that my insurance was able to cover that cost and that process, because when we started looking into it, when I first thought that my insurance wasn't going to cover it, it was in the thousands, and that was very scary. I was like, there's no way we're going to go into debt doing this, you know, even though, yes, of course, I would love to carry my children, you know, our children. But I mean, going through treatment, trying to navigate finances, but thankfully my insurance covered it. And thankfully I had an oncologist that was supportive and that was open-minded.
Yeah. Thank you for that, because I was actually hospitalized when I was told about my cancer diagnosis, and I really was really sick. And I'm also grateful I had my husband next to me. And when we were told, you know, I had cancer, right away they recommended we start chemotherapy right away. And I really wasn't told a lot of options. I wasn't told, you know, doctors don't really go into a lot of the side effects. You know, they really just want to do their best at that moment to keep you alive and get you functioning, you know, when you're in the hospital. And obviously I wasn't very, you know, I wasn't functioning. I remember I had, you know, oxygen tanks on. I had multiple blood clots. I really don't know a lot of what happened the first, you know, that month that I was in the hospital. So kind of like you know, I didn't have enough time to process it, but overall, that was what was recommended, and I understand why, and I made the ultimate decision. Fast forward, now I do know that um, certain chemotherapies can damage your eggs. Certain chemotherapies can also cause early menopause. So it's really important that if you're planning or wanting to have children down the road, if you're still in the process of deciding, or still before you start chemotherapy, radiation, before you start any type of treatment, I definitely recommend, I think we both recommend, that you look for second opinions, multiple opinions. There is options out there. I'm so glad that you got a good doctor that understood you. And I think some of us can relate to that, knowing or feeling that our doctor is not the best one for us. So go with your instinct. And if you're not feeling like they have your best interest or are not listening, you know, please look for that second opinion. There is options, especially like the sooner you can talk to a doctor before you start anything, the better. I unfortunately didn't have that option. I had no idea that could happen, and now I do. But I'm feel very blessed right now. I do have two children with me, so um, you know, whatever God has in store for me, I will take it. Paula, you did talk about the IVF process, that you did go ahead and decide to do that. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Um, and also, if somebody's in the middle of like deciding whether to do it or not to do it, like you mentioned, there was um, that does the insurance cover it? Does it not cover it? The time frame, do I push chemotherapy back? Like there was so many things to take into consideration. So tell us a little bit about it and tell us why you recommend it or why you might not recommend it.
Yeah, so when I met with my oncologist, my current oncologist, she referred me to the fertility center. They called me, they went over my options. They told me when would be the best time to be able to start the process. And because my first chemotherapy date was, I think, like a week and a half away from that call that I had, they were like, we don't feel comfortable delaying your treatment and pushing it, farther back. And that week that they gave me the call, it just so happened that I was on my cycle and they said, like, this is a perfect time. If you're going to do it, you have to do it now. You have like 2 days to decide yes or no. And I'm not going to lie, there was a big part of me that just did not want to do it. And it wasn't because I didn't want to, like, have kids or preserve my eggs or anything like that. But at that point, I just felt like I had gone through so many invasive procedures. Like I had just had my lumpectomy not long ago, and that surgery kind of went south. And then I, did so many scans with the IVs and contrast. And I just felt like I had just gone through so much that I was just like, I don't want to do another thing where I'm going to have to be doing injections for like a week and, going to the ultrasounds. Like there was that part of me that just didn't want to do any more treatments or procedures. But, talking to my husband and us both kind of just doing the pros and cons, we're like, look, number one, insurance is going to cover it. Number two, like, we're not going to be able to change our mind later on. Like, once I'm already doing chemotherapy and getting all those drugs pumped into my body, like, it's going to change the way my body works. So we, decided that it was best for me to go through it. I decided as well that that's something that I wanted to do, is to at least save them. And then we can revisit the topic, at a later time. But it was, I had 2 days, and I'm kind of grateful I only had 2 days, because I think if I had a longer time, I would have really just been
Right.
like thinking, overthinking. So I was like, you know what, like, okay, let's do it. I said yes, and then from there came all the appointments. They do the ultrasound to look at your uterus to see how many eggs you have, the size. From there comes the medication, because you will be on a lot of medications, and the medications will do things to your body. I was bloated. I was, there's times where I felt very cranky because it just messes with all your hormones. And I mean, that's the purpose of it, for it to, increase the size of the egg and the amount that you have to hopefully be able to retrieve as many as they can. But it was about 10 days of doing nightly injections. Um, Again, my husband is such a champion because I do not like needles. I was so afraid the first night that we had to do like the first round of injections on my stomach. It took me, I think, about an hour to finally like allow him to to do the injection, just because that anxiety and that fear of like, you know, getting injected in my belly, like I was so scared. But he prepared all my medications. He had it all down because it was kind of confusing. There was like, milligrams, and you got to make sure the syringe is a certain way, no bubbles, all of this stuff. So he pretty much became my little nurse for those 10 days of doing my injections and making sure I did, all my medications correctly. But it was challenging. It was hard. But looking back, it's one of those odd things where like when you're in it, you're like, oh, this is so hard. This is like not fun. Or you start saying like, oh, this really sucks. But then once you're done and you get over that hurdle and you're in your next phase of your treatment, you look back and you're like, I guess it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
you know, Looking back now, you're able to say that. But in the moment, it was hard. But I am so grateful. I can look back in gratitude and thankfulness that I was able to do that. And, now we hopefully have a possibility of, then letting those eggs become embryos in the future one day. But I'm glad that I was able to go through that. I feel like it made us stronger as a marriage. I feel like it made me stronger. I was able to get over a little bit of my fear of needles. Not totally, but I was able to a little bit. And, it just, it also made me appreciate my own sister. Is something that I mentioned to you as well, that she went through IVF, a few years ago. She did many rounds actually. And I saw her go through it. I saw the bruises on her stomach when she was injecting herself. I saw, how hard it was, but going through it my own self, like I just was able to be like, wow, like you went through this a few times, and I mean, I commend you for doing it a few times. That for me, I was like, I'll do it once, I'm done.
Yeah.
No more after that.
Wow. I love that you went into detail because I think when you research things, even when you ask your doctor, they give you like just very limited information. And when you research, same thing, very limited or, scary information. And just hearing it from somebody that went through it definitely, paints a better picture. And, thank you so much for sharing that. And you kind of understand like a little bit about it, like because your sister was there, correct? So she was such a great motivation for you. So thank you for sharing those little details. And like how you said, when you're in it, it's hard, and it is. And I also love how you said that sometimes like you get into your own head. So sometimes, it is a blessing that your time frame is shorter because we do get into our own heads over little things. So um, I personally did research about the IVF because I had a few people reach out to me, and I still am open to any questions that people might have, because even though I didn't go through it, I have, spoken to a lot of beautiful ladies here online, like Paola. I think, I've sent someone over to you, referred someone to you that was in that situation. So if you're listening today, Paola and myself are very open. You can message us. And if we don't have, we haven't gone through something similar, we will happily point you to someone that, has kind of similar a journey like you. So please reach out. I know you mentioned that you have a actually, no, you just posted that you had a lumpectomy,
Mm-hmm.
and you put a very heartfelt kind of summary of it and how challenging it was for you. Right now, you're going through chemotherapy, and like we talked about it, it's very hard when you're going through
Mm-hmm.
things, correct? And you have scheduled in the future, I want to say next month, a possible, well, you have it for a mastectomy, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Set up. And through all of this, you're still sharing, you're still making me laugh, and thank you. How are you doing it? How are you staying so positive? What motivates you? What keeps that drive that you have in you? Can you share a little bit of what's gotten you through this whole year? Because you got diagnosed in January, but it does seem that far along, but it is for someone that's actually in it when you're fighting minute to minute, day to day, because it's not just, oh, she has cancer, oh, she has, an infection today, or she has this. People, that's why I love that you share it in detail, because there's so much more that goes into every single day. All the maintenance that goes behind it, like the IVF process, like you had to do it every single night. Like you said, it took 1 hour that one day. And that's things that people don't see. So you are dealing and pushing every hour, right? Every single day, and the day ends and you have to do it all over again, or then that new day brings even more challenges, right? How are you doing it? How have you been doing? What keeps you motivated and just pushing for life every day?
I try to be as positive as I can be, because, the stuff that you read that says if you have a positive mindset, it helps you to get through this, helps you to get through those illnesses. And I try to be as positive as I can be. There are days, of course, we're all human, where it gets to me, I get in my head, or I start, thinking too far in advance, or, you know, afraid of like a recurrence. And I'm like, I'm not even done with treatment. Why am I thinking so far ahead? So there are those days, but I think number one is just, you know, my faith. I think that a lot of us have that tie to our faith that really is what keeps us going. I have a great church family. I have my amazing husband who literally has been through every single appointment with me. I have a great support system that consists of family, of friends, of coworkers as well. I have an amazing workplace where, you know, people at my workplace are so understanding, they're so supportive. So you know, it's all God, because God has put all those people in my life to be able to like carry me through these times that, you know, at sometimes felt just very dark. So I think really that's what it is. It's God, it's all the people he aligned perfectly in my life to just help me not get so much in my head, or, you know, carry this load alone, because it really does make a difference when you have a team of people who are supporting you, a team of people who are, you know, helping you navigate these scary times, whether it's through prayer, whether it's through showing up physically, helping with meal trains, helping with, you know, at your house chores, because there was times, you know, like after my surgery, like I couldn't do anything. So my sisters would come over, my mother-in-law, my sisters-in-law, like everyone was just coming together. And I have never felt more loved in my life than during this time, where just so many people showed up for us. And even though you know, it wasn't the best news to get, you know, that, you know, I was diagnosed with cancer in January. It's also been in many ways, I guess, like a blessing, because it brought our family closer together. My family started attending church. So even though in the midst of these scary times, I have seen God's hand over all of it, and I have seen just amazing miracles happen in my life. So it's been one of those odd things where it's like, it's not the best case scenario, but also I see God's hand and I see his blessings.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think God brought you into my life. I was just talking to you earlier today that, you know, I'm very happy and I feel very blessed, but you have those moments that you do start overthinking, as much as you're like telling yourself for like affirmative positive things every second, and you're being cheerful and, you know, watching happy movies, whatever it is, you're doing all of that. There is still your subconscious, right, always working, and it brings that little moment of doubt or fear. And I'm a big believer that yes, I am getting through this because of God. And you know, you came into my life, and it's so funny because even though I'm happy and things like that, like I still don't get a lot of really funny moments that make me like really laugh, you know, that bring that out of me. There's only certain things. And sometimes when I come across your page, it really brings the laughter in me. And so that's why I think, you know, God put you in my life as well, because you have brought joy to me. And like you said, it's a blessing. I've come across a lot of people that have brought a lot of joy as well, that I don't think if I was in this situation, I would have come across those people. I would have talked to them. And I got honestly a lot of reconnections during this time that I'm very blessed with. Um, I used to be, I haven't shared this, but I used to be in visuals for many years, and I just love creating things from scratch and just making it beautiful and then just presenting it, and you know, everybody gets to enjoy it. I love it. And one of the things in your page is that I see that you love like decoration, and you do little home projects here and there. Like tell me a little bit about it, because I know you post quite a bit about it. So is there like a passion behind that? Like does that bring joy to you? Like is it a hobby? Like tell me a little bit about that.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. I love the creative aspect as well. I love home decor. I love projects as well. And it kind of started back in 2020 when we had, well, when I had a lot of time at home. I was working from home. And in the same time, my husband and I were kind of doing a little bit of renovations around our previous home. And I made like a simple, I think it was a simple little shelf. And the empowerment that I felt from the fact that I made that myself, I used a power tool and I was like, like,
Right.
I think I can do more of this. So it kind of just became like a little bit of an addiction, to see like how much I can do and just how much more and the bigger scale projects I can do by myself. So it really started there, and that kind of just, propelled me to start doing bigger projects in our new home. I started doing, board and batten. And then from there, I was like, I think I kind of want to do this as a side business. So then I started doing that and doing those type of accent walls in the homes of friends and family who were so kind enough to trust me with their home. But yeah, I just love the creative aspect. I love, it's stressful in the moment. It causes me a lot of stress, and I'm like, oh my gosh, am I doing this right? But then the relief and the happiness that I feel when it's all done, it's just like, oh, okay. So it's kind of like a dopamine rush. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
But
I understand. I completely understand because to me, I would, just put myself all into it. And I'm like, I just got to do a little bit more. I just got to do a little bit more because I know the end result. I'm seeing it. I'm visualizing it. It's going to be beautiful. Like I see it before other people see it. And so I get it. Like you want to complete it. It feels amazing when you're done. It's brings something because you created it, from scratch, like nobody else. Like it's just a part of you. It's the way that you kind of express yourself. And when I saw that on your page, it kind of brought me, back a little bit to that moment and that feeling. Obviously, I'm kind of in the situation right now where I can't do much, and I'm grateful, like you, to have a lot of support. My husband that helps out a lot. And but anytime, like even just organizing, drawers, organizing like my kitchen, like redoing the flowers, like it just brings such a happiness to me. And I always thought it's important for people to do something that makes them happy, because I think it recharges your soul, your life. Like it just brings something beautiful inside of you. Like that, even sometimes that drives you, to want to wake up the next day. I know when I didn't complete a project, like I'm already like thinking like at nighttime where I'm going to start, and it's a good excitement. And then the morning I will start, and then you know it so it drove me, like it was just a big drive to just complete it, and it was a beautiful thing. And but now that I've had some hurdles and some more challenges come my way, I now think that's even more important than before. um, I think everyone should do something that makes them happy, but if you are struggling, if you're having those ups and downs, those downs can be so debilitating sometimes. So that's why I think now, if you're in that situation, you need that happiness more than ever. And as much as people help you and are there for you and give you love and support, there's just some other feeling behind your own happiness that you're creating for yourself. Whether you're taking that time to, pamper yourself and do a spa day, anything, like you're doing that for yourself. Like there's another type of motivation that comes from doing something that makes you happy. So I recommend it from the bottom of my heart. Like really, really do things that make you happy, because life gets challenging. You never know what God's gonna put in front of you, but um, those moments of happiness can really motivate you and keep you going and keep going through everything. So thank you so much for being here today. And before I let you go, I know we've mentioned quite a few things. I'm so glad you got to share about the IVF, because it is something that I wasn't aware of. I was really happy that you were open to discussing this, because I had quite a few people reach out to me. So if you still want to learn more, please follow at Life of Paola. She's been very open about her journey, and she has her inbox open, and she will happily message you back. Before I let you go, is there anything that you would like to say to anybody that's listening today?
I think just first and foremost, thank you for, allowing me to join your live and to share this part of my story. Thank you to everyone else who joined in as well. Um, One thing that I've come to realize, and one thing that I've kind of said here and there many times is to just be grateful for each day, because disease or no disease, tomorrow is not guaranteed for any of us, whether we're battling an illness or we're healthy as can be. Life is so unexpected and it can change in any instant. So just being grateful for the day that we're living today. One thing that I told myself when I first got diagnosed with cancer is in the morning when I would wake up, I would wake up and realize that I was awake, and I would say, God's not finished with me yet.
Oh,
So each day, wake up, you realize that your heart's beating, that you're breathing, and just tell yourself, God's not finished with me yet. There's still another day. So just be grateful for each day.
thank you. I have something similar like that as well. You have to, like you said, what was the comment that you said? What's the quote that you tell yourself?
The I wake up breathing and I realize that God's not finished with me yet.
Yeah, God's not finished with you yet. So let's leave with that. God's not done with any of us yet. So thank you so much for everything. And I look forward to talking to you soon. And thank you for all your support. We had tons of support, tons of sharing, tons of people joining. And honestly, that just means the world, I'm sure, to Paola and to myself. So thank you. Have a blessed day. God's not done with us yet. Thank you for sharing that with me because now it's in my heart. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.